Hello, Sochi here. So it's sort of late at night right now, and I was just thinking about one of my previous videos on this channel, talking about how I became symptomatic of schizophrenia, and that I'm what they classify as high functioning schizophrenia. So I can live my daily life, have a job or two or three. I don't have a job right now. If you are a follower or if you know me, I have 3 businesses that I am running by myself. I have some helping hands, but there's nobody on payroll, therefore they are not obligated to do anything for me. But yeah, most of what I do, I just use like volunteers, and usually people are pretty happy to help out with some of the stuff that I've been doing. So I don't have like a really hard time getting anything done. People, love to dance, and so anytime I can get people involved in performing arts, they're just really, really happy to do it. And so that's been easy for me. Maybe I just picked the right industry for myself. I think that it's more accepting. The entertainment industry in general is more accepting of crazy people, but there is some amount of discrimination there. And this is what I wanted to talk about, is that you may or may not heard of. If you haven't watched my last video, I described how this happened to me. Although it runs in my family, I think it runs in everybody's family. I think everybody knows somebody or is related to somebody who has a mental health condition, a serious mental health condition like bipolar, schizophrenia, or something else. Maybe like depression, suicidal kind of a thing. Everybody knows somebody. It's not so unusual. It's becoming more and more. There's so much awareness now. I think people are just more willing to talk about their problems so much that we're finding out it's a larger percentage of the nation, this nation, than we ever thought. And I think that is because of 2020. But let me get to what I wanted to talk to you about, was that if you follow or are a fan of Dave Chapelle, or if you've just heard of Dave Chapelle, you probably have scrolled on something about Dave Chapelle over the past couple of years. They're always showing interviews with him and Oprah or whoever, and some of his comedy where he talks about some of this stuff that happens to people, either when you're coming up and before you get famous or once you are famous. There's a lot of things that people will do to break you down or tear you apart or try to make you do things you don't feel right about. And so some of that happened to me early on, before, like when I was approached. There was no deal, any signing or meeting of a deal, but I was approached to go into the studio and do some things where if I had gone, I probably would have been paid at the very least. But I think if I could have showcased all that I can do, that they were aware of, then possibly I may have gotten a deal out of it. But 10 years later is when I started going a little bit crazy because of some medication. I wasn't sure why I was having a writer's block. I'll go through that a little bit again. I had writer's block, and I thought there was something wrong with me in my brain. So I went to the doctor. It's kind of a stupid mistake, but I was like, can you please explain to me what's happening? I mean, do I need to talk to a therapist? What's happening here? I used to be really good at this. Is it like, does talent just die? And they immediately said I was depressed and that if I didn't take medications, at my first appointment, if I didn't take medications, that it would get worse and I would never be the same. So it was like a warning, take these meds or else. And I didn't believe it. Sort of like Dave Chapelle describes something very similar where he did a video. And for me, it was doctors, but he also had doctors present and people who wanted to prescribe him medications because he did some crazy comedy skits that, no, you know, that I guess the idea is that somebody is too good, or they're doing something that's out of the ordinary, or this isn't like them, or it's a little bit crossing a line that they don't usually cross, or they're going too far, that it's maybe something's wrong with them up here and we should get them on medication right away. And so that happened to him, and he had to deny it and step away and choose not to take the medications. And he's not crazy. He is a totally mentally sane person. He's just, he's a comedian, and crazy thoughts come in your head, and you say funny things, and you do funny things, and you make funny skits, and your ideas are all over the place, and that's not so unusual. And I have to say that to people who are talented, because as an instructor, I'll be working with people who want to be talented, who will have some of these concerns and some of these worries. And I think that some of what I'm going through right now is discrimination with customers and students of other studios that get word about me. And they ask people that don't know me about me. Like, just because I take a class in somebody's class doesn't mean that instructor really knows me as a person. They can only tell you how I am in that class. And for the most part, I'm really nice to everybody. If they tell you anything else, it's just crap talking, shit talking. And I do not doubt that some instructors do that too, because it is a way to keep students spending money on them and not trying to go anywhere else. It is a tactic. I don't do that, but beware. The independent instructors do everything they can to keep their students, and if you start mentioning anything positive about another instructor, it gets them a little bit worried, and they'll do anything to keep you. So that being said, a lot of people will come to me and have questions about the entertainment industry and, what that was like for me, or, have some worries about how things are going down in a dance studio or in their performing arts experience. And so I like to do these videos to just give you some information as far as going into the professional world of entertainment. It's not always horrific and terrifying and dangerous. Not always. Sometimes it's really cool, really easy, really innocent. And I would say that one of the careers that I looked at that kind of had everything handed to her would be J-Lo. She had a lot of songs and a lot of opportunities just given to her out of spite for somebody else. There's a whole Tommy Mottola era. He was getting divorced from Mariah Carey, and everybody's heard this story, but around that time is when J-Lo was getting some of her very first big hits, and it was just because they wanted to throw it in other artists' face. They can do whatever they want, that they don't need you and you are replaceable. And so that's what her career has been based on for the past 25 years. You are replaceable. I mean, she tried to replace Selena, for Christ's sake. It's how her career started. So you have to be aware of those things, that can happen to you, step on the wrong feet, but it doesn't mean you can't succeed. I mean, do we all know who Mariah Carey is? Yes. Is she a fantastic singer? Yes. Does she have a reputation to be a great songwriter? Yes. So it's not like they were really dragging her through the mud or anything. And then Ashanti, she had a good 5-10 year run of some hits. So it's not a terrible career either. Although Ashanti, and not really the singer that Mariah Carey is, I don't understand how that happened to her either. But I think that was also the time that they wanted to bring in Latin music. And what upsets a lot of Latin people, Latinos, is that they kept choosing people with little to no talent. I was a little bit happier with Thalia coming into American music, although she doesn't have the greatest voice in the world in English. She sounds great in Spanish. But, she can't really dance. I was just happy about that because I had been watching Thalia on TV. She's a pretty good actress, actually. So I got excited for that. And the whole JLo thing, I think that I don't want to go any further into this. This is going to turn into a podcast about the entertainment industry. I just wanted to say that they will do that to you. They'll choose a person to spite you, or they'll try to put you on meds because they think you're going a little too far, getting ahead of yourself, and things aren't done that way. So anytime you try to push the boundaries, or you have a tiny thing wrong with you and you're in sort of the professional world of entertainment, everybody just wants you on drugs. People will just try to drug you and medicate you and think that that's how it works for Post Malone. That's how it worked for Amy Winehouse, and that's how it worked for Michael Jackson, and that's how it worked for Prince. And but most of those people are dead. And so I made the mistake of taking the depression medications. For about 5 years, I was not functional. I couldn't function. I couldn't speak like myself. I couldn't walk even. I was having terrible episodes of painful things happening to my body. And it was like I thought I was going to die from it. People thought that I was possessed and that I needed to have an exorcism. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrifying. I didn't know what was going on with me. So for 5 years, during that 5 years, I was just really actively trying to do everything that I could to get better, regardless of how many terrible things were happening to me. I just kept trying. It wasn't really like fighting myself every day, though it felt like it. I was trying to be at ease, trying to silence myself, trying to, cool down, calm down, relax, just relax. Don't let these things drive you nuts. And it took a long, long time. But then the next 5 years, I was getting a lot better, little by little. I just kept getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And one day I could totally function. I realized I could hold a job. Like, I thought when I applied for a job that I would probably be there for like 2 weeks, a month max. But if I lasted a month, I'd probably last longer, just faking it till I make it, right? And it didn't happen. It turned out that I was better at that job than anybody else, and they promoted me. And it was really like, wow, I am normal, and the people that I work with are crazy. Like, they were crazy. I was like, how do these people get a job? And why am I so judgmental of myself in this condition that I think that I'm so different from everybody else? And that's where the stigma starts. It's not just with other people that don't have it, but we also create it ourselves. We have the same thoughts and ideas that you do. We don't think we can do it either. But it takes a while to build up that confidence, and it's just a matter of trying new things and doing them until something works for you. But yeah, I wanted to say that I was watching that interview of Dave Chapelle talking about Oprah, and I was like, that's totally what happened to me. I was talking to a doctor, and doctors, people in the medical industry, don't really understand the entertainment industry because they think everybody is crazy. They all need psychological help, and they could all benefit from some type of medication or therapy. I mean, therapy can help a lot of people. I'm not going to say it won't, but I just I just think that they're really, really quick to diagnose you rather than assess. And I do think that there's a difference between being talented and being insane. I think there's a big difference, although there are people who have both things, and there are people who it's really cold in here, who just have one or the other, and it's hard to tell the difference between the two. But I am, and this is not a way to plug or advertise myself, I'm giving classes on how to write songs because that's what I've been best at my whole entire life. So much so that I almost got picked up by Eminem and Timbaland. And I didn't get there, but that was my own fault. I rejected them. So I didn't even give myself the chance or the opportunity to see if it was, if I could, if they would even give me a deal. But they did come to me and try to, take me into the studio. So it's not like I'm just some fake or some fraud, or I'm just saying these things and there's no evidence. I have thousands and thousands of songs in my house, on my computer, and notebooks, on USBs, in a lot of different places. So it's just what I do best. I'm giving classes in that. And we'll talk a little bit about the industry and stuff like that in those classes. But also what I will be going over in those classes is some of the information that I've just discussed here as far as making it in the music industry. I can tell you it's been quite difficult getting into acting and pitching my shows. That side of entertainment is much more difficult. It's not like there's more money. It's sort of the same, but you're dealing with a larger group of people that have big names, I would say, like a meeting to pitch a show, you're likely going to be in a room with people names you don't know, faces you don't know, but have a lot of power in the industry. And they may even be people that you know. So I'll talk a lot about that kind of thing and how to avoid some of the problems that I went through. And then how to know, how to protect yourself from things like writer's block. Because writer's block, as I've experienced, can last a long time. It can make you feel like you're going dumb. It can make you feel like you're becoming really stupid. You're losing your intelligence. How can I speak so eloquently? I don't know that I am right now, but how can I hold a regular conversation with people, and then when I sit down to write something, it looks and reads as if I'm a 5-year-old or in 5th grade. Like, it's a thing that sometimes will work for you, actually, but sometimes not. And so you have to be able to differentiate the two, what's good writing, what's bad writing, how to work with something like that, and then whether or not you're going through a writer's block. If you cannot, some people hear music in their mind, right? And like Kanye West has talked a lot about hearing music and sounds and shapes. And I also do that. I don't know how long he's done that, but I've done that my whole life. I see music and shapes, and that's how I write songs on paper. How I write music on paper, not songs. And I've done that since ever I can remember, writing down beats, because although I read music, the electronic sounds do not have the same language, and it's different, so I write it differently, and it's pretty easy to follow the way that I write it. I don't know what he does, but so that is the thing that is real. It exists with people. It's not just one man, the only genius in the world. Whatever, you may be a big fan, and I'm sorry, but he's not the only one that can do that. So if you hear the music, or if you don't hear the music anymore, you're not crazy. I can't diagnose you. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you whether or not you're insane. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it's not crazy to be creative. It's not crazy to have talent. It's not crazy to know what music sounds like and hear it in your head. It's not. Can medication dull those things and make it harder for you to do that? Yes, but the reason I went to the doctor in the first place was because they were gone. And although I could hear music, sometimes I couldn't write the same. And I thought like there was something wrong with my brain. So I talked about this on the Babble Reel. I went into the doctor about 10 years later. They finally decided to examine my head. So, well, you're doing so well. Some of this stuff about you doesn't make sense. So let's see if your headaches maybe are the result of a brain tumor. So I did. I got tested to see if I had a brain tumor, and it turns out that I didn't. My headaches are pressure based. It's not, doesn't feel like there's something in there. So they may test me for that again in the future, because different things run in my family. But You never know. And that's why I'm not claiming to be able to diagnose you and tell you whether or not you're crazy. I'm just saying that having a writer's block doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, because they come and go. I thought that writer's block was like, this could be the end, it will never be the same. But a few years later, I was writing again. It took a little while for me to be writing as well. What happened was that I decided I was just going to write endlessly, just do it until I got it back. And what happens is you think everything's good, or you think everything's bad, and you can't tell the difference anymore. And because it's not coming to you like it used to. So you really have to work. It forced me to work on a single song as if, I'm one of those other musicians that has to play a ton of instruments and really work and write out the song. Like, it's hard. It was hard for me for the first time in my life. It was hard for me to write an entire song. And so this is getting really long here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about writer's block, and that if you tell doctors that these things are wrong with you, it's likely they'll want you to be medicated. And if you tell anybody in the industry, if you are even just in lessons, people will say anything to get you out of their way. Your instructors might even do that to you if they think you're too talented or it's too much for one person. They will, if you give them a chance to destroy you, they'll do it. It's not every instructor, not all of them. Some people are actually good teachers, and they are teaching for the sake of helping people improve and get better. But some people are not. Some people are really there to prevent people from being better than them so that they can be top dog. Because I don't know where the idea came from that there's only so much room in this business. It's growing just like any other business, and probably faster than any other business. The world of entertainment, there's always new ways that we are looking to find out how to be entertained by the seconds. TikTok being just seconds of entertainment, and we want to do that all day long. We still want to watch TV, and we still want to watch movies, and we still want to go to the theater, and we still want to see the things at the state fair. And so entertainment is not a thing that will ever die. It's not a thing that will diminish. It's always constantly growing. Even through 2020 and the pandemic, all we were doing was looking on the computer for more ways to be entertained. I mean, there's so much money in it that it's ridiculous for people to be like acting like they're the characters in Showgirls. Like, I feel sometimes like my life is a little bit like that movie. I'm living it. I feel like I'm actually living it sometimes. It's starting to get better. Maybe I've already exited Las Vegas and, tripped up my competition and saved the day. Maybe I've already gone through that. I don't know, because it's getting better, but I really do feel like I lived that life for a little while. And I was warned about it, actually. You have a good teacher. I had a good teacher, Wesley Bradshaw, an incredible contemporary dancer, 3-time world champion in contemporary dance, and then also a ballroom instructor. He one of the first things he ever taught me was how tough and how rough people will get, how dangerous it can be in competition. He warned me about that before I even got started. He gave me some horror stories. Like, I'm not really trying to scare you, but I want you to know what you're getting into. And he was like, you're such a sweet girl. So, sometimes I worry about you just being in the studio. And I understand people's worry about me because especially when they find out about they call it a disability. It's done nothing but make me better at things. Because before I took the medications, I was on a writer's block. Then I took a ton of medications because I was going crazier. And the crazier I went, the more I was writing, the more prolific I became. And it wasn't just writing, but I was creating so many other different types of things that it's like, I can't imagine that there's any end to the possibilities of the things that I can do. But maybe that's just the kind of person that I am. I don't see stop signs. I see speed bumps. And, speed bumps, they're only so long, and there's always that little tree there on the side. You can go around it and skip the speed bump. Sometimes and sometimes not. So that's how I view life. But having a good teacher that will encourage you and warn you about the things that you could go up against is really important. And having a knowledgeable, educated teacher in the industry, as somebody who's been there and done some of those things, is also really helpful, which he did. And I was so happy to find him. It was like, I didn't want to let him go. And I wish I didn't have to, actually. I feel so attached. But, and it's just because there was nobody more supportive in a positive way in my reality than he was. So I say this almost in every video. Thank you, Wesley. But my mom has been there for me, 100%. She's helped distract me from the things that were driving me nuts. And then when the distractions became annoying, she had to learn how to stop doing that until, I got to a point where I could, I drive. People think that we can't drive because there's like these, they think we're hallucinating all the time. And I think it's that way for some people. Some people sort of go through it a lot, and usually that's because they skip medication and they don't continue medication. They stop taking it for short periods of time, or long periods of time. Usually that's why. But anyway, I had a writer's block. I was not schizophrenic. I was not depressed. I ended up on a depression medication that opened up things in my mind I could never close. And I went through that for a long time. So that's the summary. And I feel like if there's anybody else that's sort of going through something similar, I just want to tell them it's not so unusual. It just takes some time. Don't allow it to stop you from don't allow it to stop you from doing it, continuing to do it. And because that's all it takes. You just have to sort of get in there. And sometimes your mind wants you to learn how to work on something. It's a lesson it's trying to teach you. My grandma used to say that when I was a kid. She said life is full of lessons. She spoke Spanish. She didn't speak English. Somehow we understood each other. And she would say in Spanish, I don't speak Spanish. Well, I didn't at the time. I speak Spanish now. But she used to say, life is full of lessons. God's always trying to teach you something. She would tell me these things because I wasn't a churchgoer. I didn't have a religion. I just lived with her, so I would have to go to church with her sometimes, but I was not a devout Catholic or Christian or of any other religion. It was just like something I had to sleep through every Sunday. But she would say, God gives you lessons, and it's up to you to try to figure them out. And, you know, everything that happens to you, whether it's a triumph or defeat, or you know, if you're making progress or if you're failing, it's always something that you can learn from. I mean, everybody says that. It's not just my grandma. Like, that's the first time you're hearing it. No, but she would say this like it would spark some religious aha moment in me, since we're talking about Oprah. And it never did, sadly. Sad to say. But I did understand what she meant. So when I was going through the first year I was going through that, I would think that this is just a lesson. It's my job to learn how to get through this. I messed up. I took these meds. I knew better. I shouldn't have done it. I heard David Chapelle's story. I'd been hearing it for 10 years. It had been a decade since his show, right? And I couldn't believe that I fell for it. Somebody that doesn't take Tylenol, somebody that doesn't smoke weed, and had stopped drinking for 2 years. Like, medication is what I need. I'm a sober, sane person. I just should have known better. But, you know, part of my smart brain also wants to listen to doctors and thinks that doctors know more than me. And that's part of the problem. Sometimes they don't, because your doctors are not with you in your body or in your mind. They're not. But I don't want people to think that I'm telling them not to go to the doctor either, not to listen to the doctors, because it's hard. It's really hard when this happens to you. I didn't trust my doctors it's been 15 years. I don't know that I do yet. I'm with the same healthcare. And I take my mother to every doctor's appointment. I take her everywhere. She talks to the pharmacists for me if I don't understand something. And she's, I like to call myself a genius, but my mom is much more intelligent she's got a master's in English. She went to Occidental College when she went to college when she was 15 years old and had to move out of her house to go to school. And so I'm not that. I didn't go to college at all. I definitely couldn't have gone when I was 15. Well, there's a story behind that. Actually, my dad said that I could have, that he would have signed me up in a way that would have allowed me to do that. That he said, your mom was very smart, because at the time nobody could do that, but now there's ways to do that. And he was like, if that's what you want to do, we can do it. It's easy, 1, 2, 3. And I was like, no, thank you. I just didn't want to do it. But anyway, there's a long story behind that. Actually, I might tell that someday. This is interesting. Might only be interesting to me, but it's interesting nevertheless. So anyway, yes, it's hard to know when to trust your doctors. And I understand that. is the case with most people, not just people who are crazy. But once this happens to you, it's even harder. And so taking my mother or sometimes take my brother or my mom's husband with me to my appointments just to be my witness. So they don't just prescribe me something else. So they don't stick a needle in my body. And so I don't get attacked and put to sleep in order to be transferred into another hospital. I didn't know it was going to happen to me. They did so many scary things to me, and I was sane. I was a sane person. So it was terribly traumatic and possibly the wrong diagnosis. Part of the reason I'm doing this video is because the wrong diagnosis. It was writer's block, yes, but also I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about it. Actually, I haven't even researched it. I just know what anybody else knows from the internet. But people are saying that I might have ADHD and that I have some symptoms of that. And it goes undiagnosed sometimes for somebody's entire life. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what the symptoms are. It could be a lot of different things. But I think that if I was depressed after everything that I've been through in the past 10 years, I don't think I would be able to live the life that I live if I was depressed. I don't think. I think that most other people in my situation may have committed suicide. But the only thing that really keeps me alive is my confidence. And I get that from knowing what I could have done. What I could have done with my life, the chances and the opportunities that I had been given. That's where my confidence comes from. People talk a lot of crap. I've been not doing very well in my dancing in the past year. This is going to be all part of the upcoming seasons of the Babble Reel, and you'll see what's happened. But I've been not doing great in my dancing in the past year. And it's not that it's anything mental. It's that I've sort of been in a stagnant place. I can't really move forward. I'm not being allowed to move forward. And so trying to figure out the reasons why that is what I'm currently going through. But anyways, that's the video. Misdiagnosis. Once again, just another talk about this. Something I saw Dave Chapelle talking about. I may or may not have mentioned that in my last video on this channel. This is my personal channel. I can say whatever I want, and it can be as long as I want it to too. This is going to take me 2 hours to upload. So I'm going to go. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. In fact, if you don't want to subscribe to this because you think this is way too boring and long, you've actually made it this far, please subscribe. I don't edit these videos, so I'm not going to put like links or anything. There might be one down below. But please subscribe to the Babble Reel channel. There's a couple of things going on there. Now is the time to plug that. I have, of course, the Babble Reel, the Reel of Ballroom Blitz, which is a reality show about my ballroom experience from beginner to pro. And then there's also Wear It Out. I started a new series called Wear It Out, Ballroom Attire with Sochi MLPZ. That's me. And show you a little bit of the fashion that I wear into the studio and what I wear to dance, and then what I wear out when I'm going to special places. As a ballroom dancer, usually I'm going to end up in a studio at some point in time. So you can see kind of what that looks like. But also, Sunday Healthy Snacks is my little cooking show. You get healthy food ideas, sugar-free, vegan, vegetarian, or even things that have meat Not 100% vegan, but that's a fun little cooking show. I have really great recipes on there, actually. So go check those out. But the last thing, the newest project is the Capitol Ball Virtual Dance Sport Competition. The competition is viewable by the public for free on the Dakiki app, Dakiki app, and you can download that, create an account, and you can watch all of the videos that get entered into that competition on that app if you add the Capitol Ball to the events page on your account. But that's the last thing. On the Babble Reel official page on YouTube, I will have the winners, the top 3 winners of each category will be in a streaming video on YouTube in September. So download it, subscribe to the Babble Reel. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad you made it 45 minutes in. We'll talk about something a little bit more. Well, if there's anything that you want to hear about, any questions that you might have, please ask me in the comments below, and maybe I'll talk a little bit about it in the future. Bye-bye.